Like a knife to the face from Bullseye, these 2 episodes really hit the mark. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, my name's Amanda. You might know me as Vamp, and we are here to finally discuss Daredevil Born Again. I feel like I was born again after watching these first 2 episodes. Man, I can't wait to talk to you about them. Okay, so before we get into this, fair warning, spoilers in effect. And there's a lot of spoilers in this. And I've been seeing people posting all kinds of content that literally spoils so much. So I want to warn you because I don't want you to get hurt by spoilers. I'm trying to protect you. I'm the hero of this story. So before we get into it, let me just give you a little lowdown on kind of what happened in these first 2 episodes. I'm not going to go through all of it, just kind of the premise. So episode 1, we start off, we're with our heroes, everyone's back together again. It's so sweet. You feel all the feels. And then what do? They immediately kill Foggy Nelson. They were quick with that. I was not expecting that. Foggy's taken out, and as a result of this, Matt ends up giving up being DD. Although it kind of seems that at the time, he was already kind of working on not being Daredevil, okay? He was in a transitionary period, but this really kills the vigilante vibe for him. And of course, as everything is going on and they are persecuting Bullseye, who takes out Foggy, there's an epic fight that Daredevil and Bullseye have during the beginning of episode 1 that also pretty much trashes Josie's. Also, rest in peace, Josie. After that's all resolved, Karen is estranged from Matt, and at the end of the day, when all is said and done, Wilson Fisk decides he's gonna run for mayor. He comes back after Echo. Vanessa's been running things. All the crime numbers have been up. She's like, I'm making all the money. Crime's going well. And Fisk says, I want to be mayor. So they make everything look super clean. And Wilson runs for mayor, which obviously Matt is raising an eyebrow at because Wilson Fisk is a villain. However, after having a meeting at a diner together where the 2 of them chat about where they're at in their lives, Matt says, yeah, he doesn't really want to be a vigilante anymore, which Wilson is like, good, because if you were, I'd have to take you out because I'm coming after vigilantes in my campaign. And Wilson is also like, I am really turning over a new leaf. I've been thinking about it, and this is what I want to do. And so that is kind of where we're at the end of episode 1. Fisk ends up winning. He becomes mayor. And meanwhile, Matt, with his new partner, Kirsten McDuffie, ends up taking on a case for White Tiger, Hector Ayala. And Hector is basically being convicted of killing a police officer who he didn't know was a police officer at the time. He was just defending someone who was being attacked by what he finds out later were 2 police officers. This happened on a subway platform, and one of the officers during that fight falls onto the platform and gets hit by a train. Obviously also a big case because he is a vigilante, but they work towards keeping that part secret so that the judge says they can't submit that in court. And Matt is trying to find the person that Hector was defending so that they can have that person as a witness to prove that Hector wasn't just attacking these police officers for no reason and that they might have been up to something shady. In the end, he does end up finding that guy, so yay, but also not yay, because 2 detectives are also looking for that guy so they can get rid of him. And as a result of that, they end up coming face to face with Matt and beating him up and then threatening his life. And then Matt has to fight them, and then maybe one of them had their neck broken. It's a crazy fight. End of episode 2. So that's basically where we leave off. I mean, it's an insane ending, and there's some big implications here. But let's go back to episode 1 and talk about some stuff. I'm gonna kind of be ping-ponging around and just talking about some of the stuff that I think is really insane and important and that hit me. Obviously, the thing that hit me the hardest is the death of Foggy. I can't believe that Karen has this much plot armor. I mean, the first time around when we're in the church and you think Karen's definitely going down back in the OG Netflix Daredevil days, the priest takes her place. So that was a close save there. And then when it comes to this fight, I thought, well, here's Bullseye. Maybe this is where Karen's gonna be taken out. And no, Foggy takes her place. This woman has insane plot armor. She's never going down. Although, you know, I'm not saying that necessarily Foggy directly took her place. Clearly he was taken out for other reasons, which we explore in the episode. He basically had like a hit on him. The thing is that Foggy is gone, seemingly. Or will he be back? I don't know. The cool thing that I will say about the comics is that in the comics, Foggy has died before. And when I say died, I mean he's literally died, but he's also faked his death. So it could be that he did end up being resuscitated, he's brought back to life, and they just faked his death to protect him. and told no one. Or it could be that he might get resurrected. I mean, goodness knows the Hand loves doing that stuff. And, you know, the Hand, they're up to some crazy stuff. I mean, who knows? They might get into some sort of car accident and then now they need a lawyer. And who are they going to call? They're going to res Foggy Nelson and he could be their lawyer. So we'll see what happens with that. I think the thing that I really love about this show, though, other than the fact they just completely caught me off guard with that in a heartbreaking way, is that when we pick up with it, it's like we're just right back in it, and that's something I really appreciate. But at the same time, they're not afraid to acknowledge that time has passed. These characters have gotten older. These characters have evolved. A lot of stuff has happened in between. We've had Hawkeye. We've had Echo. Daredevil was in She-Hulk, and I think all of this is going to be acknowledged. Now, of course, some people are saying that She-Hulk may have happened after this because we don't have Matt in the yellow suit yet. That hasn't happened, but we also saw in the trailer that he has a collection of suits, so it's possible that he's had suits in the interim when we haven't been here, and we're going to be shown all of that, and so She-Hulk could have still happened in between. I think that makes the most sense just because it's the most linear and it's the most clear for people to understand and process, so I think that's what it'll be, but we'll have to wait and see until that's established. Also, I hope Tatiana Maslany as Jen makes an appearance here. That would be amazing. Also, speaking of amazing ladies that I love seeing, that are also love interests of Daredevil in at least this regard. I mean, Jen and Matt, I don't think have ever been together in the comics, but they definitely have in the MCU. I love Deborah Ann Woll as Karen Page, and I am so happy that she is back. Man, she is put through the ringer in this first episode, and I really hope we get to see more of her character as the season goes on. I think that Deborah crushed it in that episode. She's really put into a very intense emotional spot. Having gone back actually and watching Daredevil season 1 right now, I gotta say, I feel like so much of the emotional weight in this show is just perfect. The way that all of the actors approach it, they always nail it. And I'm very excited to just see more of that returning because the stakes always feel so real because these performances are that good. When Karen is trying to save Foggy and she hears that body hit the ground behind her and you just see her face and she's horrified to look behind her because she's worried that that's Matt. And it's not. It's Poindexter. That whole moment is just played so well. Speaking about that opening fight with Bullseye, I loved it. I thought it was so well done. I thought it looked amazing. I love them fighting through the smoke. I love them fighting like non-stop. It reminded me of another comic book fight that I really like from the Dark Reign era. It's actually Bullseye, who at the time was Hawkeye, because Dark Reign, against Deadpool. And it's a really ridiculous fight that just like keeps going and going on, and it just had that, you know, when does this fight end? Will this fight end? The fact that Daredevil and Bullseye here get to a place where they both can barely stand up, but they're still fighting each other. It was so intense. Something that also is really intense in this show. The cinematography is really intense in the best way possible. I never thought this would be possible, but I feel like with the Netflix Daredevil show, we've just leveled it up with Born Again. That cinematography is on another planet, it feels like, with how good it is. I'm really enjoying the overall look and style of the cinematography and the show. I like how we also just fall into that intro with the mask. I think the new intro looks great. It kind of gives me a little bit of Ben Affleck Daredevil vibes, but I don't hate that. It's kind of in a good way. And also, you know, I know Ben Affleck Daredevil, a lot of people don't like Ben Affleck Daredevil. I'm actually one of those people, but I know there's also fans out there of that. So if you're one of those people, sound off in the comments. This is a safe space for you. Actually, I did like it when it came out. I just feel like in retrospect, it's not a good movie, you know? Not only do we have Karen here, and hopefully maybe we'll get a Jen cameo at some point, but we get some other more main love interests for Matt in this season. One of those being primarily Heather Glenn, who is actually set up with Matt by another one of his love interests from the comics, one of my favorite love interests of his from the comics actually, Kirsten McDuffie. You know who else I love Matt with from the comics? I actually love him with Black Widow. They have a relationship and I think it's pretty cool. But with Matt, I feel like his relationships, he's got a lot of bad ones. He's got a lot of relationships in general. Matt is a guy, he gets around. He is one of the great hoes of Marvel Comics. And with Heather Glenn, That is one of the relationships that is not good, but it's interesting because I know y'all were saying it's gonna be Heather Glenn in the show, it's gonna be Heather Glenn, and guess what? You were right, I have to admit. But the reason why I found it so hard to see when people were saying that was, one, it wasn't actually confirmed anywhere. So I couldn't find anyone saying it was confirmed. I just found rumors. And two, this doesn't seem to be a character that is like Heather Glenn. I didn't understand. It looked like she was doing different stuff whenever we saw her in stills or the trailers or anything like that. And having watched the show, they really just took Heather Glenn's name. I don't see anything that really reminds me of the character. This Heather Glenn is a therapist. In the comics, she's a socialite. She doesn't really look like how Heather Glenn looks in the comics. I mean, Heather Glenn has like really short hair. So I guess we'll see what they're doing with that. But then that makes me wonder, well, why use the name if you're going to completely change the character? I don't hate that. I just am wondering why. And I'm hoping it's not what I think it is, which is they wanted that relationship because Matt does not look good in this relationship, guys. He does not come out looking good on the other end of it. And it does not go well for Heather Glenn. No siree. Maybe we'll do a whole video on that. I know I've said I wanted to do a video on Matt's love interests, so stay tuned. I might have some more information for you there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos when I get to them. I will say I do love that Heather Glenn is a therapist. I love that we got that therapy session with the Fisks, with Wilson and Vanessa. Was not expecting them to go to couples therapy, but I really loved the way that they approached it. I've actually been to couples therapy before, and I have to say it felt very grounded. It actually felt very real, especially when you consider this is a story about a couple that's going to couples therapy that are basically giant supervillains in Marvel Comics, crime lords to the nth degree, and yet they were able to make it feel real in terms of just what they say about why they're there. I love when Wilson says that he just doesn't want to lose his wife. I teared up. I felt feelings. Vincent D'Onofrio, what are you doing to me? Heather Glenn's book, though, Live Without Fear, that she does her book signing for, that's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Live without fear, man without fear. I kind of like that it's on the nose, though. I don't know. It's very, feels kind of cheesy, but I'm kind of into it. And she's approached by a young man at her book signing who asks about getting a therapy session possibly with her that a lot of us have been theorizing will be Muse. Of course, I don't think this has been confirmed. And I will say, going at it from the, you know, someone that needs therapy angle does feel a little like predictable. So I don't know if that will be Muse or not, but that seems to be our ongoing theory right now. I do really like that actor. He was in Wednesday, and I liked him in that. I also love that the themes of this show are established in episode 1. I feel like in that diner scene, a lot of what Matt and Wilson are talking about is this idea of what makes us who we are, and also this idea of our nature as people. Can we change our nature, or are we defined by it? And I think that's a lot of what season 1 is going to be examining, especially in regards to these two characters. Daredevil isn't the only hero we have in this, guys. We also get White Tiger, and I love that White Tiger is in this. I love that we're getting Hector. I feel like that's so cool, although I am very concerned based on what they've set up here. I think it's not going to go well for Hector. I also feel like physically something else might be going on with him. I don't know. Just when Matt was reading his heartbeat, I know that he was lying, and I know when he visits him in prison, he's been roughed up, but I feel like there's something else that I'm picking up with Hector that's going on physically. I don't know if it's that he's separated from his amulet. I don't know. Guess we'll wait and see if that's anything or if I'm just imagining it. We get a new character too that I actually don't recognize from the comics, Daniel Blake. And I think Daniel Blake could be a stand-in for Vanessa and Wilson's son, Richard Fisk, because I don't think they're gonna have kids in this show. So I'm wondering if that might be possible and if he might become the Rose, or if he still might become the Rose, but as kind of more Fisk's new Wesley. Man, I miss Wesley. Wesley was such a great character. Could be possible that Fisk really comes to value Daniel and sees him in a really great light, and they got this great relationship. And then in the end, Daniel is actually the catalyst for Fisk slipping back into that villain persona. Maybe Daniel does something, he messes something up, Fisk loses it on him and he kills him. And that's what turns him back into a villain. I don't know. Seems pretty chill right now. It seems like he's genuinely trying to turn over a new leaf, so we'll see. But there could be other catalysts. There's that hole that he gets filled and he kind of skips the permits for. I think that might be coming back to bite us, but we'll see. I feel like there's a reason why you gotta go through all the permits, you know what I mean? This is gonna be a commentary on construction and us always complaining that it should be so simple and realizing actually it's not that simple for reasons. At the end, we also get a little hint of a Punisher tattoo as well on one of the cop's hands who attacks Matt. And I was like, oh, that's very surprising to see. And then I also thought to myself, wait, can Matt see that? Matt's blind, he can't see. That reminds me of the comics. Back in the old days, everyone was always trying to remind Matt that he was blind and he couldn't do things. And there's that like, Matt being like, but they don't know that I'm actually Daredevil. I just love that. Everyone was always like, but Matt, you're blind. You can't do these things. You're blind. But I don't know, he might have perceived that tattoo in another way. I guess we'll see. And what does that Punisher tattoo mean anyways? Does it mean that Frank is connected to the officers? Probably not. It's probably more of a, they like worship or look up to Frank because he takes the law into his own hands, and these are cops that probably idolize him for all the wrong reasons. Kind of a commentary sometimes on the Punisher fan base, who I think can kind of miss the real themes. What Punisher really represents, I think, sometimes gets lost, and people take kind of the wrong things away from Punisher comics without realizing like what the point of it is. The point of it isn't that like you should take the law into your own hands. Just because that's what Punisher does, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to do that. Just FYI. So I feel like it's going to be an interesting commentary on just like Punisher in general and the fan base. When it comes to these officers that he faces at the end that Matt has to fight, what do you think's happening with that? Because I think they look like they got really messed up. So either they're going to be in the ICU, which would be bad, or they're dead, which is worse. And it's kind of making me think that we might be going in a route that I wasn't expecting, but I wonder if we'll be getting a Matt goes to prison arc, of which there have been a couple in the comics. There's been Chip Zdarsky did that more recently. Ed Brubaker's also done it. Matt's been to prison both as himself, but also just as Daredevil as well, where he kept his identity secret the whole time, which could fit with the whole angle of us persecuting vigilantes and would also help to protect, obviously, Hector in the case. If he did have to go to prison for this, he could just claim that he was just Daredevil and didn't want to reveal who he was. I don't know. I don't know if that'll be happening. Initially, I thought this moment was going to be a win for the Hector case because they found the guy that Hector saved. And then when these officers even started to attack Matt, I said, well, this will look good because if he says, you know, these people attacked me, it makes the cops look more dirty. But then once they threatened his life, I was like, uh-oh, this is going to go sideways. And it did. Overall, this show has been perfection. So what problems did I have with it? I had a few. Chiefly, I feel like there is a moment with some green screen in the subway tunnel with the subway behind Hector that I just felt looked kind of rough. There's just some CG things in general that I think people have been commenting on that are kind of weird. The main one is in episode 1 where we get, you know, Daredevil swinging around and it looks a little weird. I think that's a stylistic choice and it actually doesn't bother me, but a lot of people have been talking about it, so I thought I would bring it up here as kind of a bit of a negative or constructive point. Granted, like I said, for me, I feel like they're trying to create like a kind of superhero vibe with it and make it feel a little bit more fantastical, a little bit more larger than life. So I thought it was kind of cool. And it also kind of gave me that Ben Affleck vibes. I don't know. Is that bad? I don't know. You be the judge. One other thing that I felt I just wish we got a little bit more of is kind of Echo. And I know that Echo wasn't necessarily a good show, okay? I'm not saying that I super loved Echo. I liked the ideas behind Echo. I liked, you know, I would say maybe the first half, the first third of Echo I thought was pretty good. And then it kind of deteriorates as we go. But I just hope that we get more than just kind of a snide joke about everything that happened with Echo and Hawkeye with Kingpin, because I think some of that stuff that we built was kind of cool. And I definitely think Maya as a character is cool. And I like what they were doing with her in the MCU for the most parts. So I hope that Maya doesn't just get erased because Echo ended and had a weird ending. It had a weird ending, but I don't think that means we need to throw everything away. So we'll see as the show goes on, I guess, if they do anything else with it. It would be nice to see Maya again. Overall, I would give episode 1 and episode 2 a 5 out of 5. Honestly, although there are a few problems I have, like, it's nothing major at all. And I think overall, this show didn't just meet my expectations, it beat my expectations. It beat them into next week. So many knives went through those expectations. They are shredded, and now they've become something entirely new. Because this show is crushing it. And I think the fact that it's already been renewed for a season 2 because the response to it for the advanced screenings was that positive, that it got that green light, speaks volumes. And I'm hoping that means that the rest of the show is going to continue to blow my mind. Let me know your thoughts on these 2 episodes down in the comments below. And let me know how you're feeling it stacks up to, you know, the original series. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why? Why not? Let me know some of your theories on some of these things. Where do you think we're going? I would love to discuss with you, as always. Also, I've done reactions for episode 1 and 2 that are available for members only. So if you would like to check those out, they're available for members of the Golden Fang Gang or higher tier. And in addition to that, if you ever want to watch live with me when I do film those, there is a place you can go. It is another place. It is not this place. If you are of age and you like bladed cooling devices, it is a place. That's all I got for this one. I will see you next time. And until then, friends, stay nerdy. Bye! And click this thing. This thing is so cool, you should definitely click it.